Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay, and it's been about 10 days with the Moto G7, just under 10 days, but it's been definitely more than a full week. And I wanted to give you some follow-up time on this thing to let you know that it's actually fantastic. I'm happy that I bought it. Now recently I broke it, I shattered it, it fell out of my pocket, and I don't wear a case around the house, and I just completely forgot that it was in my pocket, and I pulled up my shorts. So I was pulling on my pocket or something like that, and I pulled my hands out and it slipped out and fell about 3 feet and it shattered. So I'm currently looking for a skin, and Skinobi is the only one that actually has one for this, and I don't want to buy a Skinobi skin. I don't want to pay 12 bucks for a screen protector and a skin. And more importantly, I don't really like Skinobi's skins. They don't offer very much. So hopefully Sophie Guard will make something for this phone, because it is a very popular phone. But for now, I just put it back in the clear case. And honestly, this actually looks like some kind of design or something like that. You wouldn't know that this was shattered if I didn't tell you. Probably you would probably think this was just one of those illusions or whatever, but it's definitely shattered. If you follow me on social media, it's shattered. But the crazy part is it fell flat on its back, and the fingerprint reader still works. It fell out of my pocket just like this, boom, and it just landed flat and shattered. There's no marks along any other sides. The screen works. Everything is still in perfect working order. So with that out of the way, the phone is still fantastic. I've been using it, and why wouldn't I? I'm going to continue to use it. It's a great phone, and the performance is what really gets me on here. So this phone is got to be one of the smoothest phones, and I know it could just be that it's stock Android. Motorola does a really good job with their devices. They have just a little bitty hint of something that's supposedly not stock, and that's just the Moto gestures and things like this. I really enjoy that the gestures are not, it used to be that the gestures were only on the high-end phones, like twisted camera. That used to be only on the high-end devices, and now it's all the way down to their mid-range or devices, or lower tier devices, if you want to say it that way, which is fantastic. The gestures on here, I sometimes I forget, because I'm not used to it being on these priced devices this low. But I was in a situation where I needed a flashlight, and I was like, oh man, I could just, it is there. And that is where Motorola stands out amongst the crowd when you're talking about phones in a certain budget. They really hammered home with their software. It's not too much. Just having the Moto gestures is fantastic, and I really enjoy the Moto gestures. The screen on this thing is absolutely beautiful to me. Watching content on it is great. I don't have an issue with it. I actually, they have this bottom firing speaker now. They took away the speaker from the top up here because they went with this design that we all know so well, and they put the speaker way at the top up there. So I guess they felt like, it wouldn't sound good, or they tested it, and so now it's just coming out of the bottom. But I will say it is a very decent sounding speaker. It's definitely not the best. It's one of the lower qualities of the phone, but at least it's there, and it's really loud. It's just not a high quality speaker like it used to be coming out of the front of the phone there. Anything facing you is just going to sound better, even if it's not a high quality speaker. It's going to sound better than coming out of the bottom. So nonetheless, the speaker coming out of the bottom isn't bad. It's not terrible. It's just not a high quality speaker. I mean, we can consider the price point. Got to cut some corners, and that is where they probably cut a corner. It would have been nice to have a secondary up there, and I believe there's always a mod you can do with Android phones. You can, I think it's some file you can put on to turn on your top speaker, but I'm not into it for that. I just really like to use the phones as is as much as possible, and this phone is no exception. It has a loud speaker, just not top quality, and that's fine with me. And couple that with a screen that's beautiful like this, big, it's enjoyable. It's pleasurable. It's definitely going to please a lot of people. This phone should be on all carriers, considering that it'll work on all carriers. Motorola phones, when you buy them directly, work on all carriers. This phone should be on all carriers, hands down. It is just a great offering for the package. Now, it does have the SD card slot, the fingerprint reader on the back, the dual camera setup, and one little secret here is I've actually, let's not forget that headphone jack with Type-C. I like how they're moving everything down, all these options down, and keeping them on the phones that are probably going to sell more than the phones that are $900. So I like the fact that, you know, they put this fingerprint reader in the logo. And I think it's something that should have been done a long time ago. Some people are still complaining about the bezels. Oh, they put Motorola down there. Get over it, folks. Get over it. It's it's done. You know, get past that. You got to move on. It's there. Just don't buy it if you don't like the design. But this phone is running Android 9, and it's for sure going to get updates. Motorola is pretty decent with their updates. And I can appreciate that. But one thing I will say is that I've been using this camera right here. Somebody zoomed in on the photo. Somebody zoomed in on the face here. So people call it a face. It looks like it's going, oh, but you know, those cameras right there, folks, have recorded so many videos on this channel since I've had it. It's amazing. And you guys just don't know the difference. Now, right now, I'm actually using my DSLR, obviously, but this camera came on board in my catalog, and I have just been thoroughly impressed with it. I have shot a lot of videos with this camera. I just can't believe how nice it really is. And today people use phones for social media. You know, you get on Instagram, you take photos and put them on Twitter, you take photos and send them to your friends. There's plenty of there's Snapchat and all these different things. I don't use those. I pretty much just use Instagram and Twitter, and that's probably at Google Plus. I used to use that, but it's going away. And today's world is social media. Let's just face it, that is what it's about. If you don't get on board with it, no matter what your age is at this point, if you don't get on board with social media and you're trying to run a business, or you're trying to move forward with things, you're gonna have to get involved with social media. That's just how it is. And phones today, you have to have a fantastic camera. This is just what it is. You've got to have a great camera. If you don't, you're pushing the limits. You've got to have a camera that's going to do good in low light, sunlight, everywhere, artificial light. You've just got to have a camera that's actually going to do very, very well. Now, while this phone doesn't perform as well in low light as the Sony phone does, it still does pretty decent. I really like the Sony phone for low light photos. This camera right here, it's funny because these cameras are cameras that were in quote unquote flagships just a couple of years back. A 1.8 aperture is nothing to shake a leg at. And, you know, the wide angle, the ultra wide angle lenses that are on these phones, these phones that are in these certain price ranges, it's amazing at how we kind of overlook where we've come from and to get to where we are. And some people have never experienced it, but I can tell you that having pretty much purchased nearly all of the flagships, not all, most, this phone right here, if I didn't tell you it wasn't quote unquote a flagship, if I just gave this to a regular person on the street, they would be impressed enough with this so they would probably think, if I hadn't have shattered it, that it was very expensive, because it looks the part. And some people say, oh, I hate glass phones. All the flagships are glass. So the fact that I only paid $249 for this, I don't feel any pressure to run out and start trying to replace it. You know, I just put a case on it, and I'm going to put a skin on it, and then I'm going to keep using it. But if this were a $900 phone, I probably would be freaking out. Like, oh man, I got to file an insurance claim. I got to do. But and the deductible for those phones was probably more than this. Now they're running upwards of $300. This phone costs $300 or less. So you do the math. I'm going to use this bad boy until the front gets shattered or it just doesn't work. And that's just what it is. That's the joys of having a phone in this price range. You know, and I think today when you walk around, you see people, the number one phone that I see shattered screens is iPhones. There's so many people walking around with the shattered screen on an iPhone still using it. They're like, I can't afford to replace this. Those are the people who will be great candidates to start purchasing phones like this, or try to get on Apple's bandwagon with these affordable versions of their phones. That's what you need to do. Buy a previous flagship. That way, you know, grab you a couple of them. However, the experience on a phone like this is flagship quality. It really is. And people who get caught up in what's on paper would say, oh, Jay, you know, that's not flagship quality. This phone's software is really fast. The cameras are good. The battery life, which I didn't touch on yet, is actually really good. So let's end on that note. Just a quick discussion video about 9 to 10 days with this phone, or however long it's been. The battery life has been actually better than I thought it was going to be. I know it's a 3,000 milliamp hour battery in here, but I kind of was worried about the processor and anything, the combination, but it's good, folks. Battery life, you'll definitely make it through a day. You're not going to win any awards like the Moto G7 Power. That's going to win some battery awards. And maybe we'll check that out next. But for right now, the Moto G7 is fantastic.